by the way. Um, let me first, I guess, kind of give you just a little bit of feel on why I'm even here and what we're going to do this morning. I've been doing this a long time. Like I said, I've been in real estate 48 years, so a long, long time. And my career was in Reno, Nevada. And I've kind of been in all the different positions. I was a part-time agent. Anybody else start part-time, by the way? Anyway, so I was part-time agent for a year, had no success, but I saw the potential. So I jumped into it full-time and hit the market at the right time, 1977. And things were really good. People were buying houses, interest rates were low, and had a lot of success, initially, and then became a branch manager for a company, an independent company in Reno, and managed that branch for a couple of years, then became the general manager. And then I bought the company, my fifth year in the business, pretty naive, to buy a real estate company in 5 years. And good company, Myers Realty, Bill Myers started, had 34 agents. And then over the years, built it up. When I sold, I had 192 agents. And the reason I was able to sell it and retire, I thought, was that RealTrends named our company as the #1 agent production company in the country. With 192 agents, we averaged 48.6 closed transactions per agent per year and led the nation in production. And we did a lot of new home sales, a lot of relocation, a lot of things that added to that statistic. And then I retired, but kind of too young to be retiring. And people will start calling and say, hey, come out, tell us how I did what you did. So I started a whole new career as a speaker. And I did that for over 20 years, traveled all over the world doing consulting and speaking, and enjoyed that immensely. Had a good time. And then said enough of that about 4.5 years ago and retired again. And that one lasted about 7 months, I think it was. And I said, you know what, I got to get back in it, and I'm going to finish my career back in real estate. So I put the word out and had 5, I was very humbled, had 5 different offers and from larger companies and franchises, and took about a month and a half to decide who I was going to finish my career with. And I had 5 must-haves in my boxes, and the only one that checked the boxes to my satisfaction was Exit Realty, which is not real well known in the West. They're real heavy. It started in Canada, and they're real heavy in the East. And so I did that 4.5 years ago. So I'm the regional owner of the 7 Western states, Hawaii, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, California, Utah, and Arizona. And I've done that for 4.5 years. So the reason I'm here today is that Margaret Vieira has a couple offices, Morgan Hill and then here in San Jose. And I said, I try to go to the offices at least once a year and do some personal training. I got a whole bunch of offices in the 7 states. I can't make a lot of rounds. And Margaret and I are talking and said, if I'm going to come in and do a little training thing, then why don't we just open it up? Just open it up. And so I went to Jody at the association and said, if you want me to come in, and there's no cost, I'm here anyway. Let's just do it and make it open to everybody. So that's why I'm here. Okay. Let me tell you also right up front what this is not. This is not a recruiting thing. This is not an infomercial on Exit Realty. Certainly you'll hear some things because, what I did and what I do now is for Exit, but you can rest assured that, I'm not going to be pounding all morning, about Exit Realty and how wonderful we are. Okay. So the title of this presentation is how to excel, in a changing market. And I believe there are at least 5 changes that need to be made, given that I've seen all kinds of markets. As I said, when I came into the business, the market was really good in 76, 77, 78. And my first year of real estate, I sold 42 houses, but the market was great, and so part of my success was a great market. Here's what I learned the hard way. One of the biggest downsides, one of the biggest disadvantages of a really hot market, if you're not careful, and I wasn't, is that it can create horrible work habits. Yes or no? I mean, horrible work habits. I went 2.5 years. I never contacted my database. I was making sales and I was on to the next. I don't know who can relate to that, but I was just doing what I do and having a good time and making money. I was single. First time in my life, I'd been a policeman for 7 years, 5 years in LA and 2 years in LA and 5 years in Reno. And so I'm making money for the first time ever and just having a ball. And database, I didn't know what that word was. I was just too busy selling houses. And then October 79, it's like somebody turned off the faucet and they just disappeared. And within 6 months, I was broke. You know, I was this hotshot sales guy, had the Ferrari, had, oh, you know, look at me, right? And man, I was broke. Had to sell investment properties I'd bought, had to sell my home. Interest rates got to 19%. And some of you remember that, 1982. It was brutal. And now here's how smart I was. I bought the company in 1981. All right. And Margaret and I had dinner last night, and I told her that my first NAR Superstar panel I sat on, I sold about 200 houses that year in 82. And so I'm in Miami, Florida, a couple thousand realtors in the audience. There's 5 of us on the Superstar panel. And the first question they said is, how do you possibly sell, 200 houses? And I was a low producer, by the way. 4 other people on the panel sold more than I did. And my answer was, I had to because my overhead was so high. I had no choice but to get out there. So I've been in really good markets and I've been in really bad markets. So in 48 years, I've pretty much seen it all, or thought I did, until we had interest rates 2.5%. I'd never seen something like that. All right. And we'll never see that again. And so I think there are changes that some people are making and some people are not. And so what I'm going to talk about here this morning, I'm going to go fairly quickly. And everything I talk about goes on the screen. And so for the people on Zoom, they see the screen, the people sitting here, everything you see will be, or everything I talk about will be on that screen up there. So I'm just going to dive into it. If you got some questions, don't hesitate. You raise your hand. We got a small group here. We'll make it worth your while. My rule in all the years I've been speaking, having been to so many seminars myself, my rule is I teach them the way I used to like to listen to them. So I'm not into stories and jokes and philosophy. I've got nothing to sell today. I don't have VHS tapes, cassette tapes. That's how long I've been doing this, right? I don't have any of that stuff. I don't have coaching. I'm just here giving ideas because I was going to be here from my office anyway. Okay, so let's make it worth your while. Here we go. When I born and raised Southern California, Downey, California, all right, by Long Beach and Bellflower in that area. And barely made it out of school. I was not a good student. And I went to school to play ball and date. That's why I went to school. School's over. I don't know what to do with my life. And because at my age, I'm in that Vietnam bracket. So 1 week out of high school, I joined the military. I did the Vietnam thing and did a little special forces stuff. And I learned something there that's benefited me my entire life, including in the real estate business. And it's what we're taught. It's what's called a proven path to success. There is a proven path, and if you stay on that path, you will be successful. And whether you're in combat in the military or, as I discovered in the business world, there is a proven path. So the temptation will be to veer away from that proven path. And so when I went into the real estate business, I said, there's got to be a proven path here, and I'm going to discover what it is. This is the proven path right here. This is where business comes from. We've all heard it. We all know it intuitively, but I'm I'm not a real left brain person. I'm not into numbers and stuff, but there are certain things I glob onto. And this is one I've watched my entire career. And that is, where does business actually come from? So keep in mind, I'm going to backtrack just for a second to make a point. My first 2 years, market hot. No matter what you did, you sold real estate, made money. When the market crashed, I crashed with it and said, man, I got to figure this thing out because I am broke. And I said, before I start chasing the business, I should first understand where the business came from. And so statistically, NAR tracks business on where it comes from every year. It hasn't changed much in 30, 40 years. So on a graph, this is where business came from last year. And if you look at it, 71% of the business comes from relationships. Now, that's not new news. You guys know that. But this is the number. So almost 3/4 of all the 5 million transactions done in 2023 came from relationships, past clients, friends, neighbors, former co-workers, your kids' parents, friends. I mean, just those kinds of people. Not a lightning bolt idea, understand that. All the other things combined, if you think about it, whether it's in my era, knocking on doors, today's social media, everything else, open houses, all the other things combined is 29% of the business. So what that told me, Okay, and I want to be very careful how I say this. I'm not saying don't do social media because I post 7 days a week. I'm not saying don't sit open house because I was a big open house agent. I'm not saying don't do these other things. I'm simply saying to you, you may want to seriously consider putting your time and energy and money, investing it in proportion to where the business comes from. Does that make any sense? That's all I'm saying. We had a young agent, and I live in Bend, Oregon, okay? And had a young agent in Wanda's office. She owns the Exit Realty in Bend. Met her a year ago, just a really attractive young girl, smart as a whip, family, is fairly well-to-do. And she came into real estate, says, man, she seemed to have a lot of drive. And I said, how many people do you think you know? If you were to put everybody you know just on a piece of paper, if you will, how many people would that be? And she goes, well, I've been gone for years, went to college and I did some other things. I might know 15, 20 people here in Bend, Oregon. And I said, okay, you just need to know that if you don't get up to at least 50, 60 people, all right, here in the next, 4 months or so, the chances of you being successful in real estate is not very likely. And it's not my job, as a trainer for all those years, and now, as a regional owner of these 7 states, to kind of diffuse someone's enthusiasm. But this young girl needed to hear, logically speaking, your chances of success are not very good unless you've at least got 40, 50, 60 people in a database. And she seemed to accept that. And then I checked with her after a month, and she had added like 4 or 5 people, something like that. Well, the bottom line, after about 5 months, she quit and she got out of real estate, which is really sad because we could use someone like her, energetic and friendly and all that sort of thing. But it just baffles me after all these years. I actually tried to count it up a few months ago, Margaret. I think I've stood in front of about 250,000 people, something like that. And given that, not Mr. Big Shot here, but just to make a point, having stood in front of that many people in my career, it just baffles me that the majority won't accept something as basic as what's on this screen right now. This is where business comes from. And this is where the preponderance of the energy should be spent. So I'm going to give you 5 things to consider changing if you haven't already changed them. Here's number 1. Not in priority, they're all of equal importance. This is simply number 1. The first thing I'm going to tell you is this: knowledge. You've got to know more than the consumer. I contend this. In my 48 years in this business, the single biggest change in our industry in my 48 years is not technology. It's way up there, and I'm fairly tech savvy, all right, especially for someone my age, as long as I've been around. But I think the single biggest change is the consumer. The buyers and sellers you're dealing with today are so much more sophisticated than they were years ago. Anybody agree with me? They're a whole different world of people out there. Because some of you go back, a number of years, maybe not as far as I do, but in my era, when it comes to statistics about real estate information, we held the key to the vault. No one could get it. We guarded it with our lives. Well, that vault has been busted open. There's consumers out there that know more about real estate than a lot of real estate people. Is that okay if I say that? It's the truth. And I think that's embarrassing as an industry. And so you have got to know more than the consumer. Let me make this comment. Brian Buffini. I worked with Brian for about 4.5 years. I did all the management programs for Buffini Company. And I think the world of Brian, biggest coach in the industry. And I think it was about 4 years ago, something like that. Brian said, hey, could you do a conference call with me? I got a series of questions. I want to ask you these questions. I said, yeah, great. It was like 45 minutes, I think. And so we do all and he gave them to me in advance so I could prepare for him, right? And so I do the questions and he goes, hey, I got a few minutes left. Can I ask you one more question? And I said, yeah, what's that? He said, what's the single biggest, the most important thing you've learned in all the years you've been in real estate, over 40 years at that point? No one had ever asked me that. I'd never asked myself that, quite honestly, kind of embarrassing. I'd never asked myself that. I didn't even hesitate. You know what I said? I said, Brian, the number one thing I've learned in my tenure, it's this: the higher the confidence of an agent goes, the higher their production goes with it. They are a mirror image of one another. And now I don't pretend to know people on Zoom out there, people sitting here. I have no idea what your experience level is, but I'm going to tell you, for those people that might be in your early stage of your career, if you take nothing else from this program this morning, I hope you take what you just heard me say. Anything you can do to build your self-confidence will make you money in this business. It is the number one thing out there. Anything you can do to build your confidence in this industry. And I'm going to give you a number of ideas in that vein. So you've got to know more than consumer. Let's go back. How was it that my little company in Reno with a couple hundred people led the nation in per agent production? Because of things like this. This is a term I use my entire career. If you're going to sell real estate today, you have got to become a student of the industry. You've got to know more than the consumer. You got to come across as an expert. And so on the very first day of an agent's career, I gave them this. These are statistics you must know by 5 o'clock this afternoon. Now, I use this in a training thing I did for my offices. That's why it's, looks that way. But how many residential listings are there in the market today currently? How many homes are for sale? How many listings were on the market a year ago? What's the average median sales price today versus a year ago? What's the average market time today versus a year ago? There's only 4 statistics. You've only got to know 3 or 4 or 5 things. You might put in there like how many months of inventory if you want to add some kind of a statistic. But I guess I'm pleading with you, as corny as it sounds, you've got to know a handful of statistics from years and years of experience, because I grew from 34 to 192 agents, remember. They were taught this the first day of their career. Here's what I will tell you from years of experience, from watching my own people and then doing seminars for years and years and doing some coaching for years. I will tell you this. Here's what happens when you know a handful of stats like the back of your hand. When you know a handful of statistics, guess what? You begin to use them in conversation with consumers. And when you can use 1 or 2 statistics in a normal conversation with a consumer, if no other benefit, it gives you instant what? Credibility. Instant credibility. And so I don't want to beat it to death, but it's a very simple premise that's the very backbone of success in real estate. You've got to know the market. This is, you've got to know more than a seller when you go out to a listing presentation. You got to know more than a competitor that's going for listing also. It's kind of small, so I'm going to break it, the top half and the bottom half. It's what I call the market study. I'm going to blank this out for a second because I want you to hear what I'm going to say. I use a market study in 2 ways, because I hired mainly new licensees in my era. I wanted them to know the market within 60 days better than a 10-year veteran. And so I assigned them a neighborhood, not to farm. I assigned them a neighborhood for 1 week to research that neighborhood. And then the second week, I gave them another neighborhood. Third week, another one. Fourth week, another one. So I gave them 3 or 4 different subdivisions, or whatever you want to call it in your market area, in a 4-week period of time to research. I also used this form when I went out to get a listing to make sure I knew more than any agent I was competing with. So the market study consists of things like this. When I assign that agent to it, I put the subdivision or neighborhood, Donner Springs subdivision, how many homes are in the subdivision, what's the age, is there new construction going on, who are or were the builders, predominant home styles, range in square footage, recreational opportunities available, the school districts. And then based on a 6-month computer printout for just that one neighborhood, they determine average sales price, average market time, how many homes are for sale today in that neighborhood, who the top 3 listing agents are, and then their overall impression of the entire subdivision. So let me just stop and ask a question. Because we gave them 4 different neighborhoods in a 4-week period of time to get this information, would you agree with me that our agents probably knew more about the market in 30 days than most agents do after 2 years? Yes or no? Yes. Maybe more important, would you agree that we've taken a giant stride towards increasing their self-confidence? They feel like they can actually have a conversation now, with people about the real estate market, whether it's a social environment or business meeting, wherever they might be in. So you've got to know more than consumers and your competing agents. Number 2 idea. Remember, I'm going to give you five changes. And we may not take, the whole block 2 hours here. I'm going to try to just do questions and answers too when I finish. I don't usually have the opportunity to do that. So number two idea, available tools. Some of you work for, big franchises, Coldwell Banker, all right, some really good companies out there. Some of you independent. I mean, it's kind of a moronic statement. You got to have tools, right? You got to have tools to compete in today's society, much less real estate. I want to give you some tools that many of you have never even heard of, didn't even know that was available to you. And so they're going to be kind of all over the board, but you got to have those standard tools you have with your company websites and email addresses, those kinds of things, right? Some of you might have a CRM, database management thing with your company, but there are some other things that you should be aware of that might help set you apart from other agents out there. You gave up your time to either get on the Zoom call or to sit here this morning. And so, I've done this for so many years. I'm serious that I have an obligation, sounds corny, but I have an obligation to people who give up their time to come listen, to give you some ideas that competitors don't have. So here we go. This one right here, roomview.com. If you're not using RoomView, you need to check it out. I'm a huge advocate. By the way, I have no interest in any of these up here. They don't pay me anything. I don't have that kind of relationship. They don't know. Most of them don't even know who I am. Now, I will tell you that a lot of these, Exit Realty, not me, corporate went out and made a deal with them, so we get a little discount kind of a deal. But I've got no interest in those, in those products necessarily. So RoomView, what is RoomView? Deal to RoomView, you can, put your picture in there. I did this yesterday. Put your, your branding, if you're Coldwell Banker or Exit, whatever, put your branding in there. You can do a video on there if you want to, but here's what it basically does. I'll cut to the chase. With a push of a button, it'll do a video for you, and you put your market in there. So I just picked San Jose, all right? I just put in San Jose, and it does a video for you, all right, that you get credit for, okay? You pick out which video you want, which format, and it does, where'd it go? Oh, no. Don't tell me this. Oh, there it is. But you know what? I just realized I didn't plug my laptop in either. I don't do this for a living anymore. Can you tell? RoomView, I'll back it up so it'll actually play the video for you. It's a great product. Come on. Got a power strip somewhere? Thanks, Jody. So it'll do that little video with just kind of an overview of the marketplace for whatever city you put in there. And it's just an incredible tool. And all you do is upload some information. It does the work for you, prepares the video so you can send it out. You can post it on social media. You with me? It's done for you. I like those kind of tools where it just does the work for you. So RoomView. This one, proptex.com. We also made a deal, a little discount for, the Exit on this one. It's for those properties that you list, maybe even going out there to get the listing. And you want to make it look a little better than, because they haven't quite spruced it up yet. And so if you want, it's a vacant home, you want to add some furniture, you want to change the furnishings, you want to kind of change some colors in it. You want to enhance the photo a bit, you want to remove some clutter, the landscaping part of it, perk it up a little bit. It'll do all this for you at proptex.com. So you can go in there and kind of clean up our property, all right? And I think you need to be sensitive that you don't want to go from one extreme to the other. So then people walk in and go, whoa, this is not the house I saw, all right? But there's some things on limited basis. I think it might be an advantage. This is the market you can't ignore. I'm doing in the 7 states I oversee. I'm getting ready to launch some campaigns because of the marketplace. And understand, I've got 7 states. So in some states, there's different population bases than others. But it's the Hispanic population and the growth of the Hispanic population and what's anticipated in the next few years. I think it's naive to not consider that as a growing marketplace that we need to be familiar with and maybe create some tools to help us capture more and more of the Hispanic market. So this kind of shows you at a glance where the market's going to be going in the next few years in the Hispanic world. Okay. And so because of that, I went out and looked and I found, stop, that's not true. Exit went out and found, okay, I'm not the one that did it. All right, they went out and found this company here. It's called Let's Chat, letschat.com, LETZCHAT, letschat.com. And it just blows my mind what they can do. And so now, and I told you, this is not an Exit infomercial. Please hear my sincerity in that. But I got to show you, I want to show you things, and I'm showing them because I use it. Okay, so here's my website, joinexitpacific.com. And so there's my website. There it is. Boom, boom, boom. And then I use Let's Chat because whoever goes to that website, whatever their default language is on their mobile device, their laptop, whatever their default language is, and they go to the website, it converts it to their language. You understand what I just said? All right, without having to push a button. So here it is now in Spanish, the same website in Spanish. It also does, here it is in Chinese, okay? Here it is in Vietnamese. I'm actually speaking to a Vietnamese guy in Phoenix, Arizona right now, about opening an office there. And then my marketing pieces, okay? My marketing pieces I'm putting into Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese. And then this one blows me away. Here's a video message, because I'm big into video messaging.
Have the responsibility to provide tools and services to our offices to help them grow. I don't speak a lot of languages, but we have the ability to translate your website, your marketing pieces into 104 different languages. If that's the kind of service you think might help you.
So there's the message, okay? And here it and so this, if there's a tool that can help us maybe build a relationship, we should at least know about it. Is that not true? Whether you choose to use it or not, totally up to you. But there's tools out there that'll do it, okay? Yeah, you have to pay for those, yeah. But almost everything I'm showing you, Jenny, is 20, 25, 30 bucks a month, something like that. It's not extremely expensive at all. Yeah.
Yeah. We played around a little bit of that. The problem is that you get people either they call up on the phone. The first person that calls it, answers the phone is English, number one.
Yeah.
Two, they ask for Vietnamese and go,
right.
I don't have one. Okay. It gets into that kind of.
That's right. And that's why my video message, because I'm using these in recruiting. All right now in Arizona, my message is I do not speak this language. All right. If I didn't have someone in the offices in Chandler or Phoenix or Tempe that was Vietnamese, I wouldn't do it. And so you're right. My purpose here is to make sure you understand there are tools out there that'll do these kinds of things. All right. So letschat.com. Idea number 3. By the way, you know what? Hey, Dorothy, I think this. I said that these are things that Exit Corporate has made a deal with. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you see some of these things out there, you say, yeah, maybe I should check out RoomView and that kind of stuff. I think it's probably worthwhile if you call them and talk to them and say, hey, I heard this Rick DeLuca guy with Exit talk about this. I think it's likely they'll give you the same price. Okay. So you don't have to be Exit. I guess that's my message to you. I can't tell you that for sure on all of them, but I've talked to some of them and I know they'll do that. So it's worth asking. Idea number 3, a la carte services. The day has come rapidly that we can't just offer the same service to everybody and compete with other agents. We've got to have a la carte services. You need to consider things that maybe most agents won't do. Some of them cost some money. All right. But you got to decide, is it worth your while or not? Such things as house clean. I've talked to a number of agents in preparation for this training today, and some of the most successful agents I know in the country. And they're saying things like, yeah, I'll pay a housekeeper, I'll pay $150 to have somebody go in there and, clean the house because they're not doing a very good job. Same thing, for just a yard cleanup. Just have, hey, I'll pay $1 to have somebody go in there and get rid of all that stuff, in the yard and, spruce it up, make it look good. I'm pointing this out to you because there are agents doing this now. And they're the ones you're competing against. And if you're not willing to make that same investment, then it could be a little tougher job. One of them made a deal with Got Junk. They'll come in and they'll take all kinds of stuff out of the house for you, take it to the dump for you. And actually the agent I talked to that's doing this made a deal with I Got Junk that they'll come in, take it, they sell some of it, and then they donate some. And then the other parts, they just take to the dump and get rid of it. And then the part that they sell, they actually get a little piece of whatever money they make on the sales side of it. And so there's different options out there for you, but these are services that some agents are offering today. And then staging, of course, some of you are into staging, some of you are not. Every survey I've ever seen shows the value of staging, whether you like it or not. Staging is a pretty important feature. Target marketing, what is this? What is target marketing? Years ago, I ran into a statistic that fascinated me. And as best I can, I've tried to stay current with that statistic. And here it is. The average seller, when they sell their current home, the next home they buy is 52% greater than the home they just sold. Now, that's just across the board averages. So you're in a real expensive market. So if they sell $1 million home, they're probably going to buy something in the 1.5 range. Well, what that told me as a guy in real estate, if I get a listing for 1.49, then the buyer's likely coming from the $1 million neighborhood. You staying with me? And so when I went after the listing, I told the seller, one of the things I do is target pricing marketing. So I'm going to go to a title company and I'm going to get 100 or 200 names and addresses of homes in the same general area, but they're in the appropriate price neighborhood to be a likely move up buyer for my listing. Did I say that so it makes sense? And it impressed the seller. It caused me to kind of stand out amongst the other agents they were maybe interviewing to get the listing. And it was a marketing strategy that cost very little money, but it had a pretty good return on this investment. And so it generated additional, income to me. So that's target marketing. This one, I'm talking about a la carte services, something in addition to what most agents will do. So now some of you do open houses, some of you don't. But for those of you who do open houses, I decided to build on that and do something a little bit different. I trained my agents to do the same thing. And not that everybody did it, but the majority did it. Here's what I'm talking about. When I take a listing, all right, in this neighborhood, it depends on the neighborhood. I'm the first to admit that. But when I take a listing in this neighborhood, the first thing I do is go around to the 25 or 30 homes in the same general area and let them know there's a home just came on the market, today or yesterday. And I had a little flyer here, here's some information about the house, or maybe just a text code so they can get it on their mobile device. And I tell them about that. Okay, well, that's not a new idea. But then I said, you know what? I want to take this and run with it. So I tried to schedule an open house in the first week of a new listing. Well, it's fresh on the market. And what I did is the next step was not just invited the neighbors to the open house. That's kind of a standard idea. But I invited them to what I called a neighborhood sneak preview. So if the house was open from 1 to 4 o'clock, it was open for the neighbors by invitation between 12 and 1. So an hour early. And I told them, if there's someone you want to bring with you, feel free to do so. And so I got the neighbors involved a little bit. And by the way, did a lot of people come? No. But here's what I discovered. People like to be invited. And some people came, some people brought people, many of them didn't come, but they were invited to the open house. Then when I had an open house, all right, after the open house, I sent, this is where I reverted to mail now. I sent a letter to everyone that I had invited to the neighborhood sneak preview, thanking them for helping me have a successful open house and in an effort to sell your neighbor's home successfully. So I'm giving them credit for helping me have a successful open house. Now, did they do anything? Most of them? No. but I've also discovered people like to be thanked. More important, I'm beginning to build a mentality that we in the neighborhood are all together. Yes or no? We're all in this together. And so when I finally sold a property, sometimes quickly, sometimes not, but when I opened escrow, I sent another letter. I didn't go knocking on the doors. I sent another letter saying, because of our neighborhood efforts, we've successfully sold a home. It's open escrow. I will keep you apprised of the status of the sale. So I made a promise that I'd keep them, up to date on what happened. And then the next time they heard from me, if it fell out of escrow, I let them know it fell out of escrow. But, fortunately, most of them closed. And so I sent them another letter saying, I promised, and here's my opening line. And I know I'm being real specific. Here's my opening line in that letter. I promise to keep you advised as to the status of the sale on this property. I wanted you to know we successfully closed the escrow of the home located at so-and-so on this date. If there's anything I can do to help you or anyone else in the sale of your property, feel free to reach out. And so I generated additional business. Can you see that? Because I guess I should give you the final push here. I sent them one more letter because you can see most of them are letters. They're not me going out knocking on doors. I don't have the time for that. The final one I sent, it's been 30 days since we closed the sale of the home located at. I enjoy keeping you advised as to the status of sale. Keep me in mind if there's anything I can do for you or anyone else the real estate needs. That kind of a general letter. And so all of that was done on every property that I shouldn't say every, but 90% of the listings that we took as a company. A huge reason why we had such a large market share. We had a 36.9% market share in Reno with 250,000 people. And so a la carte services, something most people won't do. Welcome and going away events. This became a huge deal for me and many of my ages. When we sold that home that we just talked about, okay? I just sold the home. And I asked the sellers, would you like to have a going away little party at your house hosted by me? I'm happy to pay for it. And then I gave them a list of the neighbors, who do you want to invite? Who do you not want to invite? I learned that the hard way. All right. And so I gave them a list of the neighbors, said, just check off those that you don't want to invite. And it costs very little money. Have some soft drinks and some cookies and whatnot. And it was a chance for the neighbors to say goodbye, to the person. You all see the logic here. I'm trying to build something in the neighborhood to get people to say, God, if you're going to, somebody on the other side of town, hey, we're going to sell our house. Well, there's this guy in our neighborhood, the last 4 months. Can you hear that language? That's what they're going to say. And I did the same thing for buyers. When I sold a home to someone, I offered to do kind of a welcome party, maybe in a month or maybe 2 months, but just invite the neighbors to get to know you. And I hosted it. I don't have my, big for sale signs all around. I don't have literature all out there. I've got maybe a little flyer on the house, that sort of thing, but I'm pretty low key because I don't want to come across as some big promotional event, but clearly people knew who was putting it on. So a la carte services. Well, I don't have to tell you the change with buyers in the last several weeks as of last weekend. It's interesting. I told you I live in a relatively small community, Bend, Oregon. And last Saturday, August 17th, when everything took effect, it was on our local news.
And incorrect on our local news.
There's so much misinformation out there. And so here's what we did Dorothy, we did a Zoom call months and months ago in preparation for this on buyer presentations. Here's the dilemma that a lot of people in real estate are facing. They've never had to make a presentation to a buyer. For decades, we make presentations to sellers, but not buyers. I'm not going to get into all the legal stuff and everything else. I'm just going to make a couple statements. I'm going to show you something. Here's my statement. I understand why this change came about. My entire career, when I had a buyer, Jim Eiler is my favorite client of all time. We talked about it last night at dinner, right? When I had a buyer and we write an offer on a property and I present that offer, I'm trying to get the best deal I can for my client. Yes? I'm trying to get that best deal I can. I'm representing Jim. For decades, this industry, including me and all the properties I sold, I've never represented a buyer from a legal standpoint, because my fiduciary relationship based on statute is to who? The seller. And they're the one paying the commission. So here as an industry for decades, we've represented the buyers in a practical term, but from a legal perspective, we've never represented them. You with me? That's what caused this whole thing. And we can blame lawsuits and everything else, but that's what this thing has kind of manifested itself into. So where am I going with this? You've got to be able to make a presentation to a buyer as to the value of you and your services. That's what it boils down to. And so on this training thing I did for my entire region here several months ago, I put some real simple things together. These are buyer questions that I suggest that you ask. Have you ever worked with a buyer's agent before? What's most important to you when working with an agent? What are the 3 things a home absolutely must have in order to consider even living in it? What are your deal breakers? If we found a home that fit all your needs, what is your timing to purchase? If you had to choose one, would you choose a great location, a great price, or a great home? Is there a specific school district you're going to be in? How important is a fast commute to work? Number 9, how experienced are you with the mortgage process? And 10, when is the best time and day of the week to reach you, and how do you prefer to communicate? Those questions are critical to ask a buyer. And some of you are doing a masterful job. Some of you, there's some room for improvement. Is that all right if I say that? Yeah. There's room for improvement. That's all. I sold so many houses. Where's that one? Right here, number 3. Where'd that question come from? You know what what are the 3 most important considerations, to have in order to even consider living in? You know where that came from? It came from all the buyers I worked with my 3, 4, or 5 years that told me what they're looking for. I go out and find a perfect match and they say, yeah, this is nothing what we want. Anybody know what I'm talking about there? And I'm like, what? I was already counting my commission. And I finally experimented over time and discovered, if I asked that question, what are the 3 things? If you limit people to a number of responses, they actually think about the order of priority. A home absolutely must have. It emphasizes the importance of their response. In order to even consider living in it, it takes a buyer and it shifts them, their mindset, and actually visualize a home. These are the 3 things a home must have, because every one of you who has sold more than 20, 30 houses have experienced a buyer buying something that wasn't what they described. And you've also shown homes to people that had exactly what they're looking for, that they had no interest in whatsoever. And so it forced me to experiment, to find a question that didn't prevent that, but it reduced dramatically the chances of that happening. Are you with me on that one? So something as simple as that, that's why, kind of make a big deal out of it, because it saved me an incredible amount of time and energy invested with buyers. So you don't just show homes. Those days are gone. You've got to make a presentation. You got to show the value to buyers. That's all part of this thing where we've ended up. You've got to give buyers value. So you have this right at your fingertips. Home buying in 6 steps, getting ready for home ownership, find a real estate professional. I'm going to blank it out for a second. Some of you work for big companies and big franchises, and you have things like this at your fingertips. Many of us don't have that. And so when I come in here and do a session like this, I'm not talking to the people that, oh, I've got this, I got something even better that our company provides. I'm talking to people that say, these other companies have this stuff and I don't have it, okay? Find the right property. Number 4, we finance the right, make an offer, closing the line after a big period, boom, 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 boom. This comes from NAR. It comes from your membership. And so here's how you get it. You just go to, up there, go to realtor.org. Okay. Or you can go to realtor.com for that matter. And you type in the search box, home buying in 6 steps. Home buying in 6 steps. And there it is right there. So you can download the PDF and you've got what I just showed you on the screen. And again, I think some of you already have this kind of stuff. You understand why I'm showing this, because not all of you do. And I want everybody to have the same opportunity. If you want handouts for buyers, then search handouts for buyers at NAR site. And you can see right there, there's handouts for buyers. And you can print out any one or all of these things. I can think you get a little carried away here, printing out too much stuff, right? But 7 great reasons to own a home and why work with a realtor, that kind of thing. All these things are available to you. So how to improve your credit, principles of home buying success. All right. Buyer presentations. When we did that Zoom call, I think it was like maybe an hour or something like that. I had Sabrina on with me, and we did this big thing on buyer presentations. You can make a pretty big deal out of buyer presentation, or you keep it pretty simple. Ours is pretty extensive. But this is a buyer presentation on 1 page right there. If you just follow those steps to make a buyer presentation, okay, about hiring a right real estate broker, get a pre-approval, home search, review listings. I mean, step by step by step, just something really simple and straightforward. And so even though we made this dramatic change as an industry, it doesn't have to be as complicated as some people are making it out. And like we said, Dorothy, there's so much misinformation about this thing going on out there. All right. So just know the steps. Idea number 4. Number 4. Personalization. Personalization. The day has come, long overdue, the day has come where if you're going to thrive in this changing market, you've got to make this, you got to make what you do more personal. Bob McKinnon, who's our director of leadership, who's been in real estate 50 years. Okay. I talk to Bob every Friday at 9 a.m. He holds me accountable. Bob was the very first Century 21 office in the nation in Orange County, California. And 1970, what did he tell me? 72, 73, something like that. Paid $160,000 for it and sold it for $16 million. All right. Bob and I talk a lot. And Bob's famous for saying a number of things, but one of the things he says is this: all this, real estate nationwide things going on. Bob said, these are Bob's words. He said, all real estate is local. All real estate is local. And with that in mind, you have got to put your personality into what you offer in the way of services. So there are things that you should be doing. And we all know it. This is nothing new at all. Here I'm going to say something. Actually, I didn't plan on saying this, but I'm going to say this. I do a lot of management, I did a lot of management programs, not so much anymore. When I became the owner of Myers Realty in 1981, maybe one of the advantages I had is I'd only been in real estate 5 years, and I still had the mindset of an agent more than I had of management. And I think a huge step in my success as a company was that I just accepted the fact that most agents won't do what's necessary to be successful. They just won't. And it doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't even make them not hard workers. And I made a fundamental decision as a young owner of a real estate company with 34 agents that if there were things I felt so strongly about that they needed to do in order to be successful, and they, for whatever reason, wouldn't do them, I'm going to do it for them. I'm just going to do it for them. And that became the foundation of our success as a company. And some of the things, like in my era, cost money, like direct mail. We didn't have electronic delivery. And I said, okay, so I'm going to put together a direct mail program, and we're going to mail it out to our databases every 21 days, because I thought once a month was not frequent enough. I thought every 2 weeks was overkill. And so every 3 weeks, I'm going to send something to the agent's database. All I got to do is have the database. And there was enough inferiority there that half of them didn't have a database. When for 24 years, I traveled the world doing seminars. In the last 5 years, I've never been a coach like Brian Buffini and, Mike, Tom Ferry and those kinds of guys. But I felt in the last 5 years, these people are paying $500, come up there with their credit card and buy all my stuff for $500, the tapes. All right. And I said, geez, they deserve at least a little bit of coaching. And I'm not into the coaching thing. So I said, I'm going to coach you for 30 days, just 30 days, just to get you going in the right direction. One of the eye-opening experiences is that even though I offered that, most people didn't take me up because they didn't want any kind of what? Accountability. That was an eye-opener for me. You just paid for it. And they didn't return my phone calls. I said, okay. But I also learned some things about agents. Things that you would have thought I would have known as a result of my career. I learned that I think one of the key reasons agents won't do an activity, even though we tell them these are like solid gold. I mean, they work for everybody who does them. I think that we're going from here to here and we're not taking a middle step. Now, what am I talking about? I don't want to get on some tirade here, but you can't tell someone you got to send an e-campaign to your entire database because that's what the most successful people do. You can't do that and have results unless you first back up a step. And the very first slide I showed you was where business comes from. You with me? This is why you do this, because this is where the business comes from. So you can't you can't go over step one and just go right to step two. So when I became the regional owner of Exit in these 7 states, I made a promise to myself, I'm going to run my region as close as I can to how I ran my company that led the nation in production. Knowing full well that not everybody has to do what I suggest they do, just like in my own company. So the people in the room from Exit know that every 21 days, they get something like this from me. And they can send it to their database, or they can just ignore it and delete it. Or they can print it and use it in a presentation if they choose to. But I hope that a percentage of them, and I have no idea, I hope a percentage of the 800 of them actually send it out. Is that okay? I hope a percentage of them do. Because you got to keep yourself in front of people. And I'm going to say something slightly controversial because I know all the coaches out there. And again, anyway, I'm a huge advocate of sending things to people, whether it's electronically or whether it's direct mail, which some people still do, by the way. But here's where I differ from, and that doesn't make me right. It's my opinion. I've never been a big proponent of sending things to my database that had nothing to do with real estate. It's time to change your clocks. It's time to change the batteries in your smoke alarms. Here's a recipe for a holiday pie. I'm not knocking those. Please don't hear me knocking those ideas. Truly, I'm not knocking them. Good for people who at least send something. Is that not true? Good for sending something. I simply, going back to my days as an agent in Reno, Nevada, I'm spending my hard-earned money to print these things and pay postage to mail them out to my database. And if I'm going to mail something to someone, I want it to reflect what I do for a living. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I want them to see that here's the quote that I came up with here. I want them to see that I am a proven source of real estate information. That was my objective, pure and simple. And so that's why today, everybody, all 800 in this region get this, and hopefully some send it out. Yes, sir. Yep. Yep.
Most of it in real estate, but with state, occasionally it's something different. What I track is unsubscribes. People texting back stuff, and the most unsubscribes I got recently when we just send a message, Happy July.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. All right. Handwritten note, here's the old dinosaur now I'm talking to you. Handwritten note, lost art. Just doesn't happen anymore. And I think a handwritten note has more impact today than it's ever had before in our society. Yes or no? And when I coach agents and they said, you know, I've seen other coaches, you gotta send out 10 handwritten notes a day. That won't last a day and a half. If someone's never written a note, you know what I told them? Write one. Write a note and see the impact it has on people. Then I got this last week. She's from Lubbock, Texas. I did a Zoom training session for Lubbock, Texas exit, right? And I got this from Sharon in the mail. It's a Buffini card, right? I open it up and it says, August 8th, greetings. Summer is drawing to a close and I'm ready for a cool, crisp fall. Did you take a summer vacation? If not, go now. It's not too late. Let me give you an update on the real estate market. The bottom half of the card, the market. Interest rates are still moving around 6. There was a couple of days we saw it drop just under 6, but it looked bad, blah, 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 blah. There's more inventory, some more homes show, more updates next month. I went, man, that is a lot of writing. And so I called her. I called Sharon. I said, you committed more updates next month. How many of these notes are you writing? She said, I send out about 150 each month. I went, what? She goes, yeah, I write one and I make copies. Yeah. She takes her note cards, or Buffini cards, puts them in a copy machine, kind of laid out just right. So it, copies are right on a note card. Duh. So maybe there's some flexibility there. She's doing a handwritten note, but she does it once. Video message. A video message. I've heard all the excuses on why we don't do video messaging. The number one excuse, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. Here's the news. It's the way you look and it's the way you sound. I think the video messages I've seen from agents that are just using their phone, doing a little, you know, a little quick. I think they have more impact than the ones that have a green screen, all the fancy tools. No. Yep.
Rick Lucas sends more video messages than anybody I know.
Yeah, right.
Can't not respond to it. Okay, and they're personal, they're about this long and you can't not say thank you.
Every time we've got 800 agents in my region, every time we hire a new agent,
Okay. For Exit Realty, 7 Western states, and I see you officially. Part of the Exit family, just wanted to reach out to you. I'm a little under the weather here, but I didn't want to get into the weekend without sending you a welcome message. And by the way, you made a great decision. Sean Sorensen has an incredible office, great culture, lots of success. So good for you. Hey, listen, if I can ever be of assistance, so you don't hesitate to reach out to me personally. So once again, welcome to that.
here's the message I want to give you. Notice I'm not wearing my exit uniform. I'm a t-shirt. I don't feel good. It's Friday. And I send this, and I said that, did I not? Not feeling real well, but I didn't want the weekend to come without me at least saying welcome to the family, right? Again, I told you this morning when we first started, this is not some exit infomercial. Forget the exit stuff. Capture the idea. People appreciate getting a video message, as did she. Wow, personal message from Rick himself. Thanks so much. Hope you feel better soon. And so Dorothy's right. And I send so many of those that I'm used to almost everybody responds. And they appreciate it. So a video CMA. Here's an idea for you. Unsolicited video CMA. People in your database, people you sold homes to. Here is a suggested dialogue. There's Jade Buckman. He's in the office in Las Vegas, one of our offices in Vegas. And he does pretty minimal. He started at 5 a day. Now he's doing 2 a day. Okay.
This is Dave Buckner here with Exit Realty Right Choice. It's been a minute, so I just wanted to shoot you guys a quick video of what my customers have reached out to me and asked questions about. So just letting everyone know, kind of give you an idea what their house is worth. I know in 1693 Apple Orchard Drive, I think we bought that for 275. Good news is I just pulled some recent comparables and stuff too. It's probably worth anywhere between 385 and 400,000. Depending if you guys have done any upgrades. So, anyways, hope you guys are doing okay. I would love to catch up with you guys soon because it's been a while. So, anyways, look forward to hearing from you, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
So you can tell it's not like a green screen background. It's Jade sitting at his desk, just kind of doing it, off the hip, sending out to people that he sold homes to previously. And now he's been doing it since early in the year. And I should have asked him more recently, but he started doing it in the 1st of February. And he said response by everyone except one person, 2 listing appointments so far. So he'd been doing it 3 weeks and he got 2 listings. All right. And he said that almost everyone has responded. Hey, thanks for the message. Yeah, I'll keep you in mind, that kind of a thing. I want to point out something to you here as we're kind of moving towards the last half here. Almost everything I've said so far, the cost has been what? Nothing. Nothing. We're an industry that's famous for spending money unwisely. We can spend a very little amount of money and have huge impact on people. And this is one right there. Special occasions. There's special occasions where you can make some video messages or a phone call. I've been around so long, I understand it's in the breed of a real estate person not to make phone calls. I think that's one of the first things they tell you when you get your license. Here's your license, never call anybody. And so maybe video messages is an alternative to phone calls because it's rejection free. This is in the top 3 things I did. My biggest year in real estate, now Reno's a fairly easy town to sell real estate because we have lots of subdivisions. Okay, I'm the first to tell you that. But my biggest year in real estate, I sold 292 homes. And was one of the top 20 agents in the country. And I say that, at the risk of sounding like Mr. Big Shot, but to make a point. This is in the top 3 things I did in my career. When I sold a home to a buyer, I called them the day after the closing and just thank them for the opportunity to have found a home for them. I called them 1 week to the day. Hey, Mary, it's Rick. Hey, listen, I know we closed escrow a week ago today. How you guys doing? Anything I can do to help you? I called them 1 month to the day. I then called them 6 months to the day. The 6-month phone call always had to do with the neighborhood. How do the kids like to school? Do you enjoy living in that part of town? I then called them on the 1-year anniversary of the home, tell them, hey, guess what? 1 year ago today is when you and Ed bought the house. And then I called them on the anniversary every year for the rest of my career. It's in the top 3 things I did. And once again, going back to what I said about 3 minutes ago, the cost of that idea is what? Nothing. Yet it was the number 3 thing I did to generate my production. Bob Wolf is in the top 10 agents in the United States. I've known Bobby since 1982. We were on a superstar panel, NAR together. He was in Fort Collins, Colorado. He moved 25 years ago to Orange County and sells multi-million-dollar homes today. And Bob is one of the top 10 agents in the country. And I did a Zoom training call for Bob a year and a half ago, I guess it was, for his agents as a favor, because Bob's done favors for me. Came up and spoke at our exit event in Santa Rosa, right? And I asked Bob, or Bob asked me, are you going to talk about those anniversary phone calls? And I said, yeah, I planned on it. He goes, okay, good. He said, because I've been doing it ever since I heard you in 1982 on our panel. And Bob, if anybody knows Bob, Bob is not very tech savvy. Bob lives in a 3-ring binder. And I said, Bobby, could you send me? So he sent me in January 20th, earlier this year, no, this is over a year ago. He sent me he made a copy of his planner that day on the right-hand side, January 20th, anniversary calls, if you can read his writing. And there are 19 people he called that day that he had sold a home to. Now, he told me after 3, maybe it was 4 years, he says, Rick, it became too complicated for me to keep track of what year anniversary it was. So now I just call people and say, hey, guess what? Another anniversary. So here's my message to you. If this idea did not have merit, someone like Bob Wolf would not be doing it. Fair statement? Wouldn't be doing it, trust me. One of the top 10 agents in the country. Year-end thank you letter. A year-end thank you letter is one of the strongest things I ever did. All my agents did it. What did I say about 15 minutes ago? I'm doing everything I can in this region to do the same things I did running my company. So every year at the end of the year, first part of next year, I send out just a thank you letter. And all these words, you know what these words really say? All they really say is, it's because of you that I had the success. Here's the message. Here's what I want you to hear, loud and clear. One of the most important things I've ever learned in my entire 48 years. The more credit for your success you give to other people, the more business they will send to you. Do you hear what I just said? It is the cornerstone of many agents' success. Give them credit for whatever success you're having. And so every year, you know, again, I'm trying to show you examples. I feel so strongly about it. I have someone that I pay real well, all right, in Alabama, Marla, to do marketing and social media for all kinds of things. I have her do, you know, a year-end thank you letter. A year-end thank you letter has nothing more than thank you as the message, your picture, and pictures of some properties if you want to. And every year in this region, I do these for our agents, whoever want it done. I don't charge for that because I know it makes money. You with me? It makes them money, which is how I make money as a regional owner. And so get the word out into the year, Thanksgiving, first part of next year, get the word out to your entire database, thanking them for whatever success you had. Here we go. Phone calls. You have my permission, as if that's important. You have my permission not to have to make phone calls. Because I think your era is dramatically different than my era. You don't have to call 5 people a day or 10 people a day. You have to have contact with 5 or 7 or 8 or 10 people a day. Do you understand what I just said? Contact, to your point. I've been around a long time, and I don't see CRMs out there that subscribe to that mentality. So, phone call, text, message, some kind of contact you should have on a daily basis. And just a few weeks ago, I talked to Eric Johnson, Mike Lopez. Eric and Mike are the co-founders of, it's called Circle Closer. I have no interest in it, okay? They're a CRM, and there's lots of good CRMs out there, but what I really appreciate, and by the way, I know Eric and Mike from this capacity. Mike was the president of Buffini and Company. Eric was a coach for 10 years with Brian's company. So they take that mentality with them, and they created this CRM. And here's what I like about it. And this, I take it as a commercial, I guess, but I have no financial interest in this. You kind of pick how much money you want to make, and then you tell them how many people you have in your database, and you import it in there. And then every day it comes up with, you've got to make 7 contacts per day, given, you know, what their numbers are. I got to contact 7 people per day, and it brings up in priority because you rate them 5 through 1, and it just puts them in order, right? So that you know who to send a message to, a video, an email, a text message, a phone call, but it gives you a choice of these people, and it tracks your progress on a daily basis. All right. And as you do more and more of these, if you don't know what to say, you push on the scripts, and it gives you a whole bunch of things you can say in a message or a phone call. or a DM. And so here, here's like a list of things you can put in the message, a script, if you will. And as you do these things, it tracks, and that's why I call it circle closure, because it tracks that circle. Are you with me on that? I know it sounds like I'm doing a commercial for them. It's the only CRM I've ever seen like this, that gives you permission to call them, send them a note, DM, video message, whatever you want to do. Okay.
So, and you do it straight from there?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Send right from there. Yeah. Import your database right to there. If you want them, again, it's not going to make you any good using my name, but if you want to contact them, there you go. There's a QR code right there. But it's called Circle Closer. And I've seen all the different CRMs out there, and this one's unique in what I've seen, the choices they give you and do it for you. So I hope they're successful. Hope they do well. Okay. Well, they've been around for 9 years. Okay. Idea number 5. Number 5. Got to put them first. Sellers. Probably the oldest saying in real estate is you list, you last, hasn't changed. Even in slow markets, you want inventory. So I want to give, I was a big listing agent. 78% of my revenue was on the listing side of transactions. So I'm a huge fan of getting listings. So here's a couple ideas, that might help you. When I listed a house, sold and closed escrow, I called my buyers and I called my sellers and I asked them, what in particular did I do that impressed you the most? What's the 1 or 2 reasons why you selected me to help you find a home, or in order to select me to actually market your home for you? I was always curious, and I prefaced my question by saying, I'm always looking for ways to improve the level of service I provide. Those are the words I use my entire career. And I discovered when I told people I'm always looking for ways to improve the level of service I provide, people are receptive. They're willing to help by giving some input. And so, as corny as it sounds, and it's going to be on the screen, this is what I heard sellers say on what impressed them when I came out. And I'm not talking about the people I knew really well. Okay. I'm talking about people that I just met, maybe that day on a listing presentation. Here's what they said. When you came to our home and knocked on the door, the first thing you asked us is, would you like me to remove my shoes? Now, I never would have put that in the top 10 things. But this is what they said. I'm emphasizing this is from them, not from me. Would you mind showing me your home as if I'm a potential buyer? What I heard people say to me was that had impact on them because the other agents they talked to didn't do that. Not that they don't come in and say, hey, could you show me the house? Let's kind of take a tour of the home. You just, and I'm kind of wrestling for the words a little bit, but what they said to me was this. You came into our home and you immediately changed our home into a work environment, into a business environment by saying, would you mind showing me, first of all, you ask permission. Would you mind showing me the home as if I'm a potential buyer? And so what they told me was that you kind of forced us to look at this a little differently. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah.
The people in the room from Exit know I talk about my dad all the time. Greatest salesman I ever knew in my lifetime. 8th grade education from Chicago. Moved out to LA and was 13, started selling cars at 18. And that's all he ever did. But he ended up owning 23 Chrysler and Toyota dealerships throughout Southern California. And my dad had dreams someday it would be DeLuca and Son. But because I was raised in that business, I wanted nothing to do with the car business. All right. My dad worked 9 days a week. I worked for my dad at his Chrysler store in Gardena. And between my junior and senior. Yeah, exactly right. I know. I've thought about the irony of that. So I'm working for my dad when I'm 16, 17 years old, between a junior and senior in high school. And I was the lot boy. So I got to wash all the cars. And my dad took me to lunch one day. Didn't have many lunch with dad. I mean, dad, all he did is work. That was that generation too. As a matter of fact, it's so memorable. I can tell you where he took me. He took me to the Sizzler.
Still love this.
Yeah.
Still.
And so, yeah. And so we went to the Sizzler, had lunch, and I'm sitting across from this guy that I'd been raised with. And I said, Dad, I had no idea you were so successful. I mean, I know we have a nice home and that sort of thing. But I said, God, you sell a lot of cars. I know, because I watched every one of them, no one off the lot. And he goes, yeah, we got a great sales department. And he said this. He said, if someday you take over this company, I hope more than anything that you hear this message. I said, what's that? We got a great sales department, but I'm going to encourage you to put your service department number one and not your sales department. He said, the truth is, if we sell someone a car and they come in and get lousy service, I will never sell them another car. The service department is the cornerstone of your success. I was very blessed. And then I took that message with me into real estate. Because when you think about it, all we have to sell is our service. Is that not true?
Yes.
That's all we have. And you've heard a bunch of ideas this morning in that vein. I also told my dad, how do you sell so many cars? My God. I said, you sell 2 or 3 cars for every one your salesmen sell. You're like a machine. Here's how stupid I was. Here's what my dad told me. He said, well, Rick, I only show them cars they like. I said, well, I got to write that down. That's brilliant. But I said, Dad, how do you know what they like? And here's maybe near the top of the list of things I learned in my lifetime from my dad when I was 16 years old. He said, Rick, don't try to be the answer to people's prayers until you know what they're praying for. That became the mantra I used in selling a couple of thousand houses in my career. Don't try to be the answer to people's prayers until you know what they're praying for. Go back 20, 30 minutes ago when I said, what are the 3, remember that? What are the 3 most important elements at home? Absolutely must have in order to consider even living it. Find out from them. So with that in mind, from the very first listing I ever took, which is a little condominium, Smith Ridge Greens, my very first listing. From my very first listing to my last, when I walked into someone's home, good friend, Dwayne Eisenberg, best friend, former cop, Reno, we were like brothers, to total strangers. When I walked in and we kind of toured as if I'm a potential buyer, we sit down at the dining room table. This is the question I ask sellers my entire career, some form of this question. What are the 3 or 4 most important considerations you have in selecting an agent to represent the sale of your home? What are the 3 or 4 most important things you're looking for in an agent in order to select somebody, to sell your home? Use your own language, but capture the spirit of the question. What are your 3 or 4 most important considerations in selecting someone to represent you? Because we have so many well-intended real estate people in this industry, giving their best shot in a listing presentation, bring all their stuff, and you're trying to hit the target without knowing where it is. You understand what I'm saying? This process could be so much easier if you just ask that one question. Are you worth the money you're charging? 179 ways agents or realtors are worth every penny of their compensation. All you got to do is Google 179 ways agents, and you're going to get this from NAR. Some of you have it, some of you already knew it existed. It's 179 things, from pre-listing to listing appointments to contracts and inspections, for the closing, 179 different reasons why you're worth the money you're charging. And then they came up with 105 more ways. If we did 179 wasn't enough. So now we have 105 more ways. And so all you got to do is Google that and you can print out the PDF that Realtor.com provides for you guys. So here's what I'm telling you. I have no idea who's in this room for the most part. We got some really successful people in this room. We got people in here that are probably struggling. That's just the way it is, right? That's okay. I don't care if you're like the big kahuna here in the marketplace. If you looked at 179 plus 105, you'll probably find a couple, 2 or 3 that you might want to use. Yes or no? That you probably should know about to add to your arsenal. Social media, follow that lady right there, Marky Lemons. Yeah, she's an exit agent, all right, you know, back east, but she speaks at so many conferences on how to use technology in the real world of real estate. She is a real estate agent, has a very healthy 6-figure income. She brought her son into the business, Brandon. And I won't give you numbers because it's unbelievable how much money he made in his first 18 months. They have taken social media and wrapped their arms around it. I subscribe to Marky, I mean, free subscribe. I get an email every day from Marky Lemons, you know, with just another idea, another idea, another idea. So do that. This was yesterday or 2 days ago. 3 things you'll learn in this episode. So she's got little recordings you listen to. Turn your website into lead generation, transform home buying experience, how to stage a home without buying furniture. She's just practical because she does what you do. You with me? She does what you do every day. So, Marky. So what we talked about today is the proven path. This is the path that's been, you know, blazoned by many, many successful people in the industry. And I just being one of them. In all honesty, I'm not going to ask you to say anything, just by a show of hands. How many of you truthfully have gotten at least one thing you're actually to go out and do? Any of you? Whoa, almost everybody. Excellent. I did this a few months ago for offices. I put together, you know, the market was a little challenging. And I said, okay, you need to have an activity worksheet. You need to kind of track all the things you do to generate, you know, some business. And that worksheet, you know, is aimed at listings. Add 20 people to this in a 3-week period of time. Add 20 people, call 20 people, send out, you know, your mobile business cards, write 10 notes, send out the Connect app, host an open house, post you need listings, you know, on those different dates. What one thing will you keep doing? What thing will you stop doing? What thing will you start doing? What could you have done, you know, more productive? What I learned the last 3 weeks, just a real simple activity. And you know, the sad thing is in this industry, most of us would be more productive and more efficient if we just did something that simple. Yes or no? Just put it in writing. Here's what I'm going to do. Most of you know what to do. Maybe got a couple ideas today. So here's the deal. I told you at the outset, I'm here kind of as a favor for the association. There's nothing to buy. You know, I'm not promoting any products and that sort of thing. If you want this entire presentation, you can do one of 2 things. You just, people on Zoom, people here today, just give me your business card and I'll just email it to you. Okay, later this week. And trust me when I tell you this, I hope you've gotten this message all day. I'm not going to put you in some drip campaign, you know, geez. I'm going to send you the presentation. That'll be the end of it. Okay, trust me. All right. So if you like the presentation, I'm happy to give it to you because I know there's a lot of things in there, that a lot of pictures being taken, that sort of thing. Happy to do that for you. If you want my business card, my contact information, it actually, we all have electronic mobile business cards. If you just text Rick D to 85377, you get my business card. And then you can just download it right into your contacts. You can send a message to me. You can email me saying, hey, I want that, or just give me your card, whatever works for you. You know? Yeah. Yeah. Again, yeah, I don't own any of these things up there. I don't have any financial interest in them. My obligation today was to try to give you some ideas that you could actually take out there and use, because I think the market is such, the day has arrived where we do need to make some changes. Is that not true? We need to make some changes. That's all. All right. And just because of my position, I have to keep current on changes, you know, versus my own career. It was many years ago. So let's do this. I don't want to keep you for the sake of keeping you. I do see that, we have some, Margaret, you arranged this through, we have lunch brought in there from somebody Who,
Yeah, there she is.
oh, there they are. Would you stand up and tell us at least who you are and,
My name is Marisa Olmos. I'm a mobile notary.
mobile notary? All right. Well, thank you. And you brought the sandwiches and stuff? Wow. Wow. Thank you. Oh, you made them? Wow. Well, thank you. That's very nice of you. That's very nice of you. Yeah, yeah. So let's do this. Here, I do, again, I don't have the opportunity to do this very often. And again, I don't want to keep it for the sake of keeping it, but questions, something you're curious about or something we never even talked about or anything at all, expand on something and don't be shy. Okay. Yes.
Regarding the cost that we don't have to make, in fact, the new regulations, we need to pick up the phone and call the other agent, right?
Well, yeah, other agent. Yeah. I'm talking about calls to consumers. Yeah. Yeah. So any questions at all? You guys curious? I know we're sitting here for an hour and a half. That's a long time. No? Can I do this then? Before we break this? And if you don't want to participate, that's fine too. I don't want anybody giving speeches. I think everybody raised your hand that said, I'm going to do one thing. This will benefit everybody in here, not me. Could I have you say just out loud the one thing you're going to do, and you're not going to expand on it? I'm not going to ask questions. Just boom, 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 boom. We're going to go through the room because that will help. Trust me. I've been teaching a long time. That'll help some people. Oh yeah, he said it too, or she said it too. And so one thing that you're actually going to do, if you don't mind. Okay. And if you don't want to do it, that's fine too. Okay. We got one thing real fast.
Personal notes.
Personal notes. Good for you.
Video text by sales.
You're going to video text. Good. Excellent. Who was it?
Say video.
Good for you. Excellent.
The annual cost on closed sales.
Yeah. The anniversary calls, Connie. Yeah. It's gold. That idea is gold. Yes, sir.
Year-end letters.
Yeah. The thank you letter. Give credit to who? Everybody else for your success. By the way, there's probably a handful of newer people in the room. It goes for you too. You know, so you don't have a lot of sales. You can't have a bunch of pictures of houses. That's okay. Send the message. If it weren't for folks like you, you know, I couldn't have enjoyed my first year in business as much as I did. That kind of a thing. Just give them credit. Okay, give them credit. All right, couple more, real fast, so we can have our sandwiches.
No more than seller, consumer, know the market.
Know the market. Yeah, couple of stats. You're in like Flint. Okay, Dorothy.
Neighborhood repeated message that they help me sell your neighbor's house.
Yeah.
Thank you for your part in it.
Yep.
I'm gonna give you prize. That's gold.
Yeah. Yeah. You create a group. They all have a vested interest in that property.
And they drove by my sign
That's right.
every day
Yeah.
for 60 days.
You want ideas that did just to some people make no sense? When I did open houses, you know what time I put my directional arrows out? 7 a.m. The house wasn't open until noon or 1, but I put my directionals out between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. They were there all day long. It is the safest sign. That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true.
It's safer because there have been realtors, agents that got run over by cars. And you try
Yeah.
to do it.
I almost got run over by an agent.
We won't go there. Okay. But the reason I did it was just I wanted my signs visible all day to the neighborhood. It just kind of fed in that same mentality. Okay.
Split out because
Well, different ordinances, cities have different restrictions. Reno was very liberal in that area. Yeah, usually 3 or 4. Here's what I will tell you. I mean, how stupid is this idea? I saw a survey many years ago that did a study and it had directional arrows, same direction. I think it was like 4 or 5. And then I got to an intersection and went this way. And people had to go left or right. And so to make sure they didn't, make sure they were fair, they did it the opposite direction. But anyway, the difference was, I have to guess a little bit, it was like 70+% went in the direction of the one that had a balloon tied to it. And when I read that, I never did an open house without a balloon tied to my directionals. Well, no, I'm saying if there was a competitor sign going opposite direction, they're going to go with the one with the balloon on it. I know it's kind of weird.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Real fast.
Video CMA.
Video CMAs.
That's gotta be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like Jay, what did I say? Jay's doing 2 a day. you know, but he's got a handful of listings, you know, yeah, that's fine. That works. Okay, yes, sir.
Thank them for the success.
Yeah. Yeah, get him involved, man. You become a hero for the neighborhood.
Sorry, with the nationwide rules change,
Yeah,
I did an open house, this past weekend, past 2 weeks. They do know what's going on. They're
oh,
very,
yeah,
very
oh, yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the biggest concern I've had for many years about our industry is that the consumer knows more than the agents do.
No.
You know, so it is what it is. They do. They don't know the details. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Read more than you would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want their-
All right. Yeah, some of it's right. Okay. You-
I had something happen as I was walking in. An agent called me and said, I want to pick your brain on how you're dealing with this new SNAR stuff. So I had this idea, maybe all this immersion I've done, maybe I need to do little clips of videos that I can send to agents.
Yeah.
Or even to the agent
Right.
that's on the
Right.
other side, not
Yep.
so much as a recruiting activity, but a shared knowledge thing.
Yeah. We're all in it together. That's why I opened up this training for whoever wanted to show up. Hope it's some worth your while. The business cards, you can just put them on the desk here and I'll send it out probably tomorrow, or the next day. You'll get it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Hope you got that impression too. And thank you very much for the homemade sandwiches. Very kind of you. So with that, thank you guys. Thanks for coming this morning. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. The Zoom people, if it's still on Zoom, if you want the presentation, you got my mobile business card, Rick D 85377. And I'll just give me your email address and I'll send it to you as well. Yeah, I noticed that.